A lot of people writing in, should Sam be giving marriage advice?
You know,
maybe he's the perfect person.
Sometimes there's lessons you can learn in failure. I mean, let's be honest, folks. I mean, failure may be too strong of a word, or it may not be. But
A scout familiar with the signs of this trail.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt.
That was beautiful.
Speaking of Donald Trump, Donald Trump is, slowly ramping up his campaign. And it's time for me to talk about Mr. Ron DeSanctimonious. Here he is. He is on, where is he? He's in Columbia, South Carolina, speaking to the media on his plane, setting down the gauntlet for
He's got
Mr.
a crest behind him.
Yeah, they got to give him a ring light, too.
Yeah, I mean, is this a family crest? Like, he's not on Air Force One anymore.
This is an offer you cannot refuse.
I thought that was a disgrace. I showed you the Washington Post today where they had it, when they said, I'm leading. I said, I'm not leading at all. I'm leading by 35, 40 points. And he won't be leading either. I got him elected. He won't be leading. But when they can write this is what's killing your industry. When they write things that are just absolutely false. In the case of the Washington Post, you see what's happening over there. That thing is falling apart. When they read stories like that, and people know it's not so. In fact, we just came up with a New Hampshire poll this morning, a very good one. We're leading by a lot. That I'll mention there. And then but in the major polls, nationwide polls, we're leading by 35, 40 points.
You just alluded to the governor of Florida. He is increasingly showing skepticism or outright sort of denial of vaccines, something you worked hard in your administration to produce. What's your feeling on that? His sort of stance that questioning their legitimacy and whether they're harming people?
Well, I know he took the vaccine, and he probably took the booster based on the question that was asked, the famous question that was asked. And he promoted the vaccine as much as anybody in this country promoted it. You remember, and he closed Florida. Florida was closed. There are Republican governors that did not close those states. If you look at Tennessee, South Carolina, there was some, if you look at South Dakota, you have states that were legitimately not closed. Florida was closed for a long period of time. And they were all in for the vaccine, and all in for the boosters, and all in for Regeneron. By the way, Regeneron was fantastic. Some of the therapeutics.
All right, the sound on this is a little bit tiresome, but it's basically he's out
on
there.
his plane. Sorry about that.
Yeah, he's out on his plane. Interesting that they haven't quite gotten the people on board yet to figure out how he's gonna deliver his message, and one wonders if they're just not trying to lay low. But he's going after DeSantis for hypocrisy on the vaccine. He's going after the media. It's all the sort of the greatest hits. The media is not reporting things. But in one instance, he is correct. The media is definitely making it sound like the Republican nomination is far more contested than it really appears to be. And this is going to be helpful for Trump in the end.
Oh, yeah.
Because when DeSantis either decides not to run or decides to drop out after New Hampshire or wherever it is he decides to drop out, Trump is going to get out there and he's going to trumpet, if you will, the fact that the media tried to make this some type of race and tried to pretend that Donald Trump wasn't not only the obvious front runner, but by a mile.
Of course.
And in many respects, there are more Republicans who are excited about Donald Trump's run than there are Democrats over Joe Biden. Now, this is not to say that Joe Biden wouldn't beat Trump. I don't know. I suspect that he would, but there's a lot of, it's way too early to talk about that. But the point is that there is a real concerted effort to not to prevent, but to downplay Trump's popularity in the Republican Party. And this level of delusion is dangerous, if you ask me.
But they're trying to will it into existence. And it's just, Yeah, go on.
They want the Republicans to be normal again, even though
Jeb
Ron
Bush,
DeSantis is far from normal.
Yeah.
And so this is the point. Again, this is the Republican Party. There is no other Republican Party. It doesn't mean, I almost say, like, it doesn't even matter whether, if Trump was to pass away tomorrow, this would still be Trump's Republican Party. It's just that they would find the next closest, replacement.
2 points, though, that I want to point out. One, he mentioned South Dakota. So that is a way to stave off Kristi Noem.
Well, I don't know if necessarily to stave off or to like boost her as another competitor to sort of like
maybe they have something going on behind the scenes.
Because what he said was positive about her. Like everyone's given Ron.
It was hard to hear.
What he said was everyone gives credit for DeSantis for not shutting down, but he actually shut down stuff. Remember the beaches, but there were actually states that didn't shut down, like South Dakota, which is like, yeah, come Sturgis, regardless if the local residents don't want it this year because we're going to spread some COVID.
Yeah.
And he mentions Tennessee and South Carolina, who their governors Bill Lee and Henry McMaster are one staunch Trump allies, and two not in any have zero interest in running for president. So it's like two kind of harmless mentions, and then Noem maybe being a dilution point for DeSantis.
And I just think this is the smarter tack than being anti-vax. One, Trump wants to take credit for it, so that's the self-interest, but being anti-lockdown but pro, vaccine in general, and you can get it if you want to, is actually not a bad strategy for Trump.
Worked for Biden.
I find it interesting that in that clip, he's touting Regeneron still. He's touting some of the COVID therapies, but he's still not ultimately criticizing or denigrating the vaccines or the vaccination efforts. He's mostly just saying DeSantis is a phony. Mm-hmm. He actually is more appreciative of and welcoming towards the vaccines. He's never going to be someone who's going to be like Operation Warp Speed was bad, the antibody treatments are bad. He's saying DeSantis is actually not being genuine about his position.
And it's a return to his roots. It's a return to his roots because he was always, I'm the truth teller, this guy's the liar.
Yeah,
but I gotta say, like, the sanctimonious thing, like, the problem I have is I wish he was a little bit more forceful and strong in defending his vaccine thing, because he's like, you're being sanctimonious, but that kind of implies that DeSantis is right about it and has some sanctimony about it. Like, he's kind of running away from it in a way that I'm a little bit worried about.
The problem is the problem he has is that he is caught. The vaccine is a really interesting dilemma for Trump, because he is caught between. The thing about Trump is he's always been able to sort of avoid that dilemma of that the Michelle Bachmann dilemma, where she gave the sort of Tea Party response to a State of the Union, and her camera, she was on closed circuit camera, and she was talking this way, and then the CNN feed was this way. And it just made her look like she was crazy because she was talking to a camera, but it was just slightly away from the camera that most normal people were looking at. Trump's got a similar dilemma, because normal people understand just by looking at the numbers. Again, I think I headlined this. 13 billion doses of the vaccine. We have seen we're moving in the endemic phase. Personally, I think there should be a lot more care in the way that we've been running our COVID policy. There isn't. The vaccines are being asked to do too much at this point, but it has greatly diminished the amount of death and serious illness, at least to the extent that we can determine at this point, particularly in terms of like the behavioral aspects of suppressing COVID are completely, essentially like nil, close to nil. But he's got a problem because a significant portion of his Chud MAGA base is anti-vax. And you know, I don't know that I really fully realized this, because I thought there was a conflict there. And I don't think that those voters have reckoned with that conflict yet. Like, for instance, we did that piece on the Project Veritas. Jimmy Dore, retweeted it. And in the comments that I got, and it was interesting both from the perspective of because I'm interested to see who his audience is and who is the type of person who is anti-vax now. And at least in the context of who's listening to Jimmy Dore, 65% of these comments that I got, when I went to their bio, they are right-wingers, like full on Marjorie Taylor Greene, MAGA in the bio, full on right-wingers. They'll have some anti-vax stuff in there too, but they also are right-wingers. And then there's like a smaller percentage that just seem to be exclusively anti-vax, don't really sort of take any other positions. And then there's a tiny, tiny sliver, I would say maybe 5%, that single payer healthcare.
Yeah, but they'll say that.
And half of those are Jimmy's burner.
Right.
Well, I mean, maybe. But even if I take it at face value, it's also, I mean, there is a contradiction between what are we going to do? Like, we need to save, 45, 65,000 lives a year with single payer healthcare. Meanwhile, we've had 1.1 million people die. We know that, this is a function of not taking COVID seriously. But nevertheless, I don't think that 65% that is anti-vax and MAGA have reconciled that conflict yet. And they haven't had to, because there hasn't been anybody attacking Trump on the vaccine. And so I think he's got to be like low key it a little bit and not want that to erupt, because that is not terra firma for him. And it is an unknown zone as to like how much but DeSantis is obviously starting to think that he can exploit that. And so it'll be interesting to see where that goes. All right. We've run out of time, folks. My clock management is just horrible these days.
Calling Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sam should coach the Cowboys.
Yeah.